Well, Rob Callister is joining us, responsibility for motorsport, of course, and the news has been held back until Monday, 7:30, and this is when we release this interview. There's massive changes coming up for the Manx Grand Prix, and this is a game-changing sort of change. As far as I can read it, it's going to be pivotal to how people will review this whole event, I think, in the future. So maybe the headlines, please, first. What exactly would you announcing here today?
Yeah, so this is the first major review that's been undertaken since 2011, and I think in 2013 we introduced the Classic TT. The headlines around this is obviously a shorter period. It's gone down from 14 days down to 9, but I think that's around about the stability and securing the future of this particular event for the Isle of Man. And that's based on a review that was carried out by the DFE Motorsport team, but with the help of Isle of Man medics, with the Marshals Association, with ACU events, and obviously with the Manx Motorcycle Club that holds the rights to this event.
There's more than that, though, but let's still do this one first of all. There's less days, but I'm thinking already people have postponed their bookings from previous years, which will have a 14-day potentially period. I know we haven't got everyone on that, but there's all those sort of things taken into account. There's going to be less time, therefore, when people are here on the island. Therefore, the hotels in the future will have a less time to make an income stream from this particular event.
Okay, well, we're going to bring in some major changes to the TT schedule, but we've delayed those till 2023. We felt we could bring the changes to the Manx Grand Prix in 2022. And that's because we believe that the numbers who may be affected are just a handful. There's not a huge number compared to the 46,000 potential visitors that we have for the TT. Obviously, the Manx Grand Prix has increased visitors since 2013 from 9,000 to 16,000. But we reckon the numbers affected in any way will be small, and we encourage them, if they are affected, to speak to their carriers to change tickets and to do anything they need to do. But realistically, this is about making sure these events go ahead. This is on the advice from the Marshals Association to say that they've given a firmer commitment to say they can get behind us on a 9-day event instead of a 14. This is looking at the safety, looking at the economic impact, which is becoming more and more of an issue about local businesses, local people getting around about their business. So to condense it down to 9 days, we feel is better. Okay. From a tourist point of view, you mentioned about the tourist season. That's already at the height of our season. And the tourist industry has already said that they're already struggling, with regard to those dates anyway, with regard to other events and family visiting and people just generally visiting the island.
I mean, this used to be right at the end of the season, of course. It's slowly crept back, hasn't it? It's in August, all completely, isn't it now?
Yeah, but again, this is from advice and from me listening as the political member. I know when I spoke to the Manx Motorcycle Club over the last 5 years, they've talked about bringing the date in. They talk about introducing a daytime practice session, which is what we've done. We'll do that on the Friday. Now, that's themselves have said that almost equates to 2 extra evening practice sessions. So that's really good. So yeah, it is big changes. Obviously, we're going to move away from the branding of the Classic TT.
All that effort to launch, I know it's before your time, but there was a big thing about that, wasn't it? Now,
it was.
To bin it off again.
But let's be perfectly honest here. The Classic TT came in when the visitor numbers, and these events are all about visitor numbers, started to decline. And the team, once we started introducing the Classic TT, once we started bringing in the top riders, the top teams, it did attract more visitors, and we slowly increased that visitors number. And in 2019, the visitors to the island was over 16,000. However, as a political level, and I think from an operational level, everybody talks about them and us. When you see the Classic TT running its event and then the Manx Grand Prix running their event, you could see hoardings coming down, you could see advertising coming down. It didn't look good. So what we're going to do is still have the big teams, still have the riders, everybody in the classic machines, but what we'll do is do it under one umbrella, which is the Manx Grand Prix.
But there are less events, there are less races. It has to be. Surely you can.
We've actually lost the newcomers race, which itself has been quite difficult, and I know not everybody has supported that. But from the Manx Motorcycle Club's position, they have, as a whole, supported these changes. And as the political member, I'm happy to get behind those changes, which has been, as I say, been a collective group decision from the DFE Motorsport team, the Marshals, from the medics, and from the ACU events team. They're the ones who carried out the review. This was supported as a group within the Manx Motorcycle Club, and as the political member, I'm happy to get behind those changes.
Let's talk about the marshals, because that's and it's TT as well. We always hear that every year we're looking for people, numbers are tight, not enough coming in, maybe for the full duration. By lowering it down, is this another way of hopefully having enough marshals all the time here?
These are the discussions, what happened during the review. The Marshals Association were heavily involved. They reckon they could support a 9-day event more easily, and yourself, in previous years we've had call for marshals just before the first practice session. We're hoping by condensing this down to a smaller but compact event, we actually get all the marshals that we'll need to run these events successfully. Riders will get enough time to on the course to actually be able to get the qualifying times, and then we have a fascinating race program which attracts people not just to see the big stars, but they also support the stars of the future. And part of this review is to make sure that the Manx Grand Prix is actual stepping stone into the TT, because we know the course is getting faster, so we need to make sure that progression is there for the riders of tomorrow.
Various stakeholders involved in this whole thing. You've held this, obviously, various meetings. Have you got a complete consensus on this, or behind the scenes there's quite a bit of upset going on still?
No, I think from the Manx Motorcycle Club, I think there is a few people who don't agree with the changes, and I think that will always be the case, especially around the newcomers race. But I want to put on the record that newcomers will be welcome to the Manx Motorcycle events, the Manx Grand Prix events, and they can enter any of the races they want. But what we're trying to do is to make sure that our riders are at the heart of our safety concerns, and it'll always be controversial because the newcomers race, but because the course is getting faster, the speeds are getting faster, we need to make sure that when we're introducing riders into the Manx Grand Prix and into the TT, we do it in the most safest way possible.
Some would say the welfare of the riders would be, but actually you shouldn't even hold this event. This is still massively dangerous. And these are the novices, of course, aren't they, technically? These are people who will hope to aspire to the TT and get their grounding. This one's probably could be seen as more dangerous.
And I think because the speeds have got faster, and the machinery and the technology and even the infrastructure, the roads and everything else, the course has got faster. We do need to make sure that we are looking after the riders' welfare. And again, as I say, Manx Medical Services was on board of that review, and the same as the Marshals Association. Everybody, and I'm very grateful, and we'll put on record my sincere thanks to everyone that was involved in that review. I know the newcomers race is one of the potential points that people feel they should still have a newcomers race, but we're still going to welcome.
Is it just too dangerous then? Is that what you're saying?
I wasn't part of the review, but I think what they're trying to do is to manage newcomers into the races correctly. Okay. So there isn't suddenly these newcomers that get on machines and then they're racing straight away. We want to manage their introduction. We want to have their safety at the heart of this event as well.
Is this the beginning of the end, though, for this event, do you think? I mean, it's shrinking, it's moving.
I think the opposite.
Right.
I think we're condensing it to where it's manageable. I think it has minimum impact on local businesses and for local people, but it has the highest impact we can from a tourist point of view, from a marketing point of view, from a development point of view. And I think when we move into the future, I'm hoping the visitor numbers will actually increase beyond 16,000. And then what we can do is actually package this event correctly. And when we announce the announcements, the changes for TT 2023, you'll understand some of the changes we've made today are going not just on this event, but it's being reviewed across all our motorsport events.
Who instigated this? Was it a government inquiry / proposal, or did it come from other sources?
I think there was initial discussions for everybody, and as I say, as the political member, I wasn't heavily involved in those negotiations and the discussions around the review. But as you say, it was the ACU events, it was the Isle of Man government, it was the Marshals Association, and more importantly, it was the Manx Motorcycle Club themselves. And everybody sat around the table to discuss what options and what we felt was the right event going into the future, especially when we're celebrating Manx Motorcycle Club and the Manx Grand Prix will be celebrating their centenary next year. So it's absolutely right that we remove the likes of the classic TT away from that. So when we move into 2023, the focus is solely on the Manx Grand Prix and the Manx motorcycles contribution for over 100 years.
This question goes for both the TT and Manx Grand Prix. It's been off obviously for these 2 years. Do you think the momentum is there? People are ready to come back to the Isle of Man, or do you think some people have just moved on and head to the Isle of Wight if they go do theirs or whatever?
No, I think based on bookings for the TT, I think people are ready to come back. They're ready to see some top racing. And from a TT point of view, we're taking that to a new level. We're going to obviously go to live streaming. We know that the Manx Motorcycle Club has already tried live streaming, and I'm really grateful. That was a good test bed for them to actually look at that. So there's a stepping stone, a progression. These events always move on. If you take the Manx Grand Prix in 1923, they only started with one race and then evolved. So it's always changing. Nothing ever stays the same.
But will it be open to more changes and tinkering and tweaking and that sort of thing?
Well, if there is any more changes, because obviously this is the changes for 22. Obviously in 2023 it's their centenary, and we need to make sure we get behind that and to make sure that we have a fantastic event in 2023, and then from that we'll develop the future with the Manx Motorcycle Club's blessing.
To finish with, will they have a grandstand scoreboard to look at?
Well, again, the bid has been submitted with Treasury. I will know next month, the same as everybody else, once the budget is published. From that, my desire is still to have a scoreboard in place by 2023. And as I say, that's what I'm pushing for. That is what I'm fighting for. And I will continue to do that until it's in place in 2023.